Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Commission Accomplished. This session is all about commissioning in the new world order of the SVODs, or perhaps the new world disorder of the SVODs. But the big shock in this session at the RTS is we're actually going to see some television. So our three panelists today come from all walks of the content universe: a British PSB, international pay TV, and the content arm of a global giant. From the left, politically maybe, Ian Katz was appointed Channel 4's Chief Creative Officer, a post he took up in January by Alex Mahan. A newsman turned commissioner, he spent many years in The Guardian, rising to deputy editor. He entered the world of television as editor of Newsnight in 2013, and in his current role, he's responsible for all C4's commissioning and scheduling teams. He has said he wants to challenge the orthodoxy, up creative risk, and be a stronger flavour at Channel 4. His first slate of commissions including Benedict Cumberbatch in a Brexit drama, more of which in a minute, Kathy Burke in All Women, Big Nasty, and Happy AF. Zai Bennett is Director of Programmes for Sky Entertainment in the UK and Ireland, where he recently described his ideal content as chewy and fucked up. His editorial responsibilities span Sky One, Sky Living, Sky Atlantic, and Sky Arts, the free-to-air channels with commissions such as the critically acclaimed Patrick Melrose Tinstar and Bulletproof. He joined Sky as director of Sky Atlantic, home to Game of Thrones and Billions, as well as originals like Fortitude, Gorilla, and Riviera, and was the last linear controller of BBC, much lamented a little while ago by Tony Hall, where his hits included The Life and Death Row, Our War, People Just Do Nothing, and The Revolution Will Be Televised. He started out at ITV, bringing us The Only Way Is Essex, Celebrity Juice, and Secret Diary of a Call Girl. Georgia Brown is Amazon Studios Director of European Originals, overseeing Amazon Prime originals across both scripted and unscripted genres. Her current slate includes the adaptation of Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett's Good Omens, starring David Tennant and Michael Sheen, French-German comedy Deutsche Leylandes, and Series 3 of The Grand Tour. With a background in content investment and distribution, Georgia joined Amazon last year from Fremantle International, where as EVP Global Content and Co-Production, she oversaw The Young Pope, American Gods, and One Born Every Minute. As SVP of Acquisitions at Shine, she worked on Broadchurch, Educating Yorkshire, and MasterChef, and started out at BBC Worldwide. So we have on stage people with a whole variety of experience. First of all, just a very quick reaction to Tony, particularly from Georgia and Zai. I mean, what Tony was, he was saying the SVODs are here to stay and they're obviously going to be a big player. The worry was that they were going to not crowd out the PSBs, but actually, you know, bigfoot them. Do you really care about the PSBs?
Desperately. I think they're hugely important to the ecosystem of the broadcasting landscape, and that's why we work very closely to collaborate with them, because I think it's really important that we support them.
Zai?
Yeah, absolutely. They're a huge part of our platform. We have deals with all of them, and it's incredibly important for our customers that they get to see all of those channels as easily as they possibly can through our platform.
And of course, as PSB, we're not...
I
think we know that answer. So Georgia, let's start, because we're going to start and look at commissioning. Let's start with your clip. But first, though, tell me about it and why it's an Amazon-defining show we're going to see a clip of.
So we're going to see a clip of All or Nothing Man City, which went out in August this year for us and had real success for us across the globe. The reason that we wanted to show this clip is because I think, in essence, it is what an Amazon show in the non-scripted space looks like. So we've really pushed the boundaries in terms of the access we've been able to get. I think you'll see the production quality is incredible, and it's something we're really proud of.
Let's see the clip.
Sit down! Nobody talk! Sit down!
M'agrada molt que hi hagi molt soroll al vestidor abans del partit. Intueixo que la gent està així més activa.
I want to finish high. Today, Huddersfield, Brighton, Southampton. No negotiating on that. Okay? Let's go. Let's go. Try to make high, like when Sergio goes, plus Gundo, plus Kevin, and after that, the people in front courage to score a goal. Let's go, guys.
Today you have to win for one reason. You have to win for David Silva and his girlfriend, Jesse.
Of course, I'm going to defend you until the last day in our lives in the press conference. But here, I'm going to tell you the truth. If you became a top team, you have to score the goals, guys. I am pretty sure we're going to win the Premier League, guys. We're going to win the Premier League.
how do we gauge, though, how well that's actually doing in terms of an audience?
Well, there's a number of ways that we're assessing content and how it works for us. And, you know, we're still in our infancy at Amazon in Europe. We're very new. That's partly looking at how many people are coming to it. That's about engaging our audience, retaining our audience. What we really want are shows that people are fanatical about, so we're looking at people talking about it in social media. You know, I love getting on the tube in the morning, see how many people are watching it on their iPads.
How many is that?
It's a lot. You know, we've got 100 million plus viewers around the world.
So it's more about who subscribes to Amazon rather than actually who watches individual shows. You're not going to give us a ballpark of how many people might watch that show.
I'm sorry, I'm not, but it's a lot. A lot of people are watching that show around the world right now. And that's what's interesting, is how many people outside the UK are watching as well.
Tony Hall talked very much about the necessity of British content for British viewers. What do you think about that?
I think it's hugely important. And I think, again, it's something we really want to support them in. So some of the shows that we've been in the edit of just this week, things like King Lear for the BBC, The Informer, which we're incredibly proud of. We're launching it later on today. I think I meant to be at the press launch probably now. So, you know, again, it's, I think we're slightly different maybe because we are very invested in supporting the British broadcasting industry. We're not here to compete. We're not here to tread on toes.
You're not here to compete?
No, we're definitely not here to compete. We're here to, you know, offer audiences something they're maybe not getting elsewhere. We're looking at the white space. We're not here to try and take over. And so I think collaborating with the BBC...
It seems that you're incredibly benign.
No, we're definitely not benign. Definitely not. No. I think we're just different, and that's what we've got to be,
but,
right?
I mean, if you were to look at who your main competition would it be the other SVODs, or would it be terrestrial? I mean, what audiences are you trying to garner?
We have an incredibly broad audience. I mean, our prime audience ranges hugely in terms of its age and its demo. So, you know, again, it's about finding those pockets of audience who are particularly fanatical about the show that we're creating.
But the fanatical, actually, interesting you were talking about football there, because obviously other broadcasters or other SVODs have seen the fanaticism that's around football, because, you know, Netflix is in that territory as well. They're doing Sunderland, they're doing all manner of other shows.
Yeah.
So it's all about coming up with something that's actually different.
Yeah, which is incredibly hard. And that's where we're relying on the production community to come to us with areas that they think they're passionate about and that we think our audiences would equally love to watch.
You have got a Europe-wide role, but you're also very much keen on localization. And how are you talk about wanting people here to come to you. Are the routes of coming to you quite straightforward?
I think they're very straightforward. Yes, I think we're a very small team. We're growing at the moment. We're still setting up. I only came in 9 months ago. Jennifer Solke, who runs us in the US, started in March. So, you know, we really are in our infancy. We're just starting up. We're getting the teams up and running so we can make the process as smooth as possible for people to come and
I'm going to bring the
shows.
audience in a minute and bring the lights up in a minute once we've been around the panel on this. But just in terms of the kinds of, you talk about finding shows that connect and you want to be, you know, very distinctive in the room. But what are you looking for?
It's the golden question. It's that awful, I hate to say it, but you know it when you see it, and you know it when you read it. You know, you read those scripts and you go, oh God, there's something in this that's absolutely beautiful. It's that pure idea that hasn't been kind of bastardized to be made
by
global.
Netflix.
Well, no, you know, I think that's the difference. We are commissioning, and I say this to lots of people here, very locally. You know, we don't commission necessarily through a global lens. I want shows that will resonate locally with that specific audience, whether it's Spain or, you know, you mentioned Deutschland, our first French original. Interestingly, we only have that in France. That show will go out there, and that's it for us. It won't go out globally because it's so specific for that audience.
Right, let's turn to Channel 4 now. Ian, you're going to show us something secret, and it's so secret that the audience can't tweet, they can't record, or we're going to have to kill them. So why is this going to be channel defining for you?
Well, I should say I'm breaking the cast iron rule of showing unfinished work. It's not great.
We did all the time at Newsnight. It doesn't matter.
There was no such thing as finished work on Newsnight. I'm showing you an extract of James Graham's drama about Brexit, partly because it's got Benedict Cumberbatch in it, but partly because I think it's a very good example of the kind of telly I want to make more of, which grapples really directly with the big issues and arguments of the day, and I think sort of plunges into the kind of contested territory that is much harder for other broadcasters to get, harder for the broadcaster you work at to get into, and less appealing to other broadcasters. So I think quintessentially Channel 4, quintessentially in that great tradition of political Channel 4 drama that goes back to GBH and A Very British Coup.
But before we show that and the kind of Richard Norton-Taylor and so forth idea that actually what you're doing is you're putting the politics of the day on the television. In that sense, does it matter to you what the size of your audience is, or is it about being reputational for Channel 4?
Well, of course, you always want both. And I would hope that an incredibly compelling piece of drama with Benedict Cumberbatch starring in it will get people over whatever ennui they feel about Brexit. But I'm absolutely prepared also to make great, important television that we know isn't going to get the biggest audiences.
Well, let's see the clip of this. Tell me, Ian, have you got a TX date for this? That's what I wanted to check with you.
No.
No. In the near future?
Soon, yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally before we Brexit.
I was about to say, yes.
If we Brexit.
Yes. So, but how, I mean, you've got Benedict Cumberbatch there, who you say is a huge talent, and it is actually, as well as everything else, all about harnessing the talent when there's so many different places the talent can go. But how well can Channel 4 do in scripted when you have comparatively a very small pot of money?
Well, it's an interesting challenge, and lots of people have talked about the challenges of attracting, writing great on-screen talent when there are huge amounts of money being poured in by Georgia and lots of the other digital giants. But I think when you see that, that's a great example of a piece of real immediate relevance, immediate local relevance. It feels burning and now and relevant to a British audience, and it feels absolutely right that that sits on a PSB. And I think one of the things that I've been really encouraged by in the 8 or 9 months that I've done this job, I think, is a growing sense among writers, some on-screen talent, producers, that they really want to see their stuff on UK PSBs. There were all sorts of attractions to the SVODs. Initially, tons of money. But increasingly, I'm hearing people saying, actually, we want to see our stuff landed with the audience where we're writing. We want to know that something we are producing is getting a huge amount of TLC and is not going to be one of 500 productions that go onto a massive platform.
You have to do a bit of that, though, with your fingers behind your back, firmly crossed, because, of course, we'll come on and we'll talk about, the Shonda Rhimes of this world going to Netflix. Of course, that's America. But the draw of the big bucks for writers is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's huge. But, I mean, along with the new competition has come, amazing opportunities for collaboration. I mean, we've got lots of collaboration with Amazon over shows like Catastrophe. We've got collaboration with Netflix. And the shake-up in the environment as a whole has created all sorts of hugely interesting things. We're collaborating with Sky, we're collaborating with Vice. So I think that what's happened is the challenges have caused us to tear up the rule book, and we're finding incredibly interesting lateral ways to make things. I mean, we have a piece of television coming on Channel 4 this autumn called The First, which is a Sean Penn Mars mission story, and the cost is multiples of anything that we have done on Channel 4 before, but we can do it because it's a partnership with Hulu, which is the sort of arrangement that would have been possible 4 or 5 years ago.
If you're going to do more drama, and you're very keen to attract the best talent and the best writers, what are you going to do less of? I mean, is there going to be a Big Brother moment where you clear the schedule? I mean, what do you not want to see or want to see less of in Channel 4 that's on just now?
Well, I'm a sort of distinctiveness fundamentalist. So what I want to see less of is anything that could broadly appear on another channel.
Like what?
Well, I'm not going to axe individual shows sitting here, Kirsty. But I do, I think the challenge we've got is that viewers have got access to an unlimited number of flavors, and that's great for viewers, and it means that we've got to be a stronger flavor, and we have to go almost back to basics and ask what the core ingredients of the flavor that we are supposed to be is, and then we have to dial them up.
Right. Zai, your turn. What are you going to show us and why?
So I'm going to show you a quick clip of Sick of It, which is the new Carl Pilkington show. I'm showing it because it's a scripted comedy, and we often show lots of our dramas, so I'm giving comedy a go, being fair. I'm also showing it because it's the first written and scripted piece that Carl's done. So he wrote it himself, he stars in it, and I think that's a sort of unexpected, interesting, and quite audacious thing for us to have done. And also, it's very indie and smart, and I really love it. Also, I've been here all morning, and it's been fascinating, but we could do with a laugh.
Right, well, here's the laugh. Let's watch the clip.
When I am going.
Look at you, you're all sort of stiff. You know why that is, don't you? It's because you're not comfortable in smart clothes. You never have been.
I got a wild imaginary friend.
Do you think the voice in your head sometimes gets in the way of what you want out of life?
Look at him sat there writing everything down. This is Columbo.
He comes.
We don't need anyone else interfering. We can work everything out on our own.
I want you to challenge yourself.
Oh, that's disgusting.
To do something you're afraid of.
It's too negative. I'm too negative, you're too positive. Like a battery. Wouldn't work with both ends being positive, would it? It's a right con, this. That claw hasn't got the strength to grab anything. Like a robot with arthritis. Do me head in. You do my head in.
Absolutely, not quite on the sky green until now, but this is a departure. But is it also because it is pretty you've done a lot of incredibly originated, brilliant drama, like Patrick Melrose for a start, but that's going to become more difficult?
I don't see that becoming more difficult at all. I think that our drama and our scripted strategy in entirety has just been going from strength to strength. I think drama's slightly further along than our scripted comedy has been, but comedy certainly seems to be hitting its stride now within the long run. I think this is a fantastic show. We've got a Ramesh Ranganathan piece called Reluctant Landlord launching, and Julia Davis piece launching later in the autumn. There's loads of comedy coming, but drama's absolutely just on fire.
But what matters to you? Is it subscriptions, or again, is it actual neat audience figure? So, I mean, you obviously can play things many, many times over. You build an accumulative audience. Well,
you need to get a certain amount of people to be loved. So, you know, it's about subscriptions. It's about making sure those customers see value for the subscription that they have to take out each month. But, you know, there are sort of bare minimums you have to get to do that. You know, if you make lots and lots of niche shows for a few hundred people, that's not going to do that. But you can have shows that there's a mixed economy of what you can have. You know, lots of our dramas, 2.5 million, 2 million plus, that's great. But equally, sometimes a show that's 500,000 can be doing an equally good job. And who do you think your main competitors are? Are they the PSBs or the SVODs for drama? I think in terms of creatively, we're looking far more at sort of the OTT players, so Amazon and Netflix are. So when we're looking at writers, directors, we're looking there, because the sort of the scale of the dramas that we're making there's a sort of floor in terms of the money we're spending, and that's where they are and we are. There was a brilliant speech by Jane Featherstone at BAFTA 2 years ago, where she really sent up a flare about the problems that are going to face young writers and so forth, writers being eaten. I mean, I've talked about Shonda Rhimes and so forth, and you know what Tony Hall says, very proud he's kept hold of the Jed Mercurio brand. But actually, it's going to be much more difficult to bring young writers through, to give them enough work in lower-cost dramas when the SVODs are out there hoovering up.
I don't know if I agree with that. Again, Fleabag's a fantastic example where we worked with the BBC and Phoebe. We collaborated on that show in the US, season 1. She then went off and obviously made Killing Eve, which is doing fantastically well now. So it's kind of, you know, we've helped promote that talent and support that talent, give her a voice in the US, and because of that, she's now doing incredibly well here. So I think there's absolutely a way to be supporting new talent with us in the new world of collaborating.
On when it was coming, we had Big Little Lies. Big Little Lies 2's coming. You rely on those kind of programs as well to build that binge watching as well. Well, there's a mix to this. We still have the best of the US is one of the phrases we use. So you know, everything from HBO, everything from Showtime, and quite a big range of network US telly as well. And that's really important for our customers. Yeah. But the thing we're spending more time on and more of our investment on is the original productions, and that's where they really are the tentpole events for our customers to make them love and keep subscribing to Sky. Well, we're going to come on a minute and talk about the kind of partnerships the SVODs do and where they'll continue to co-pro, but let's get some views from the audience. We've got 4 mics. I'd really like to get the lights up very quickly and get some questions in. So, first questions? I saw there was a hand at the back. Not a hand at the back? No questions for... We've covered everything, it's good. For Zai, Georgia or Ian? God, that lunch must have been good. Was there alcohol? No questions. Well, that's fine. I'm very happy. I thought we'd want to have audience questions, but let's look at the SVODs being at this dreadful phrase, frenemies. And are they good for you say they're good for the UK creative economy, but it's not going to be long before you're not going to do partnerships. You're just going to do it yourselves, and there's not going to be anything left. for the PSBs?
You know, we're absolutely looking at original content, but we will very much continue to invest heavily in the co-production side. That's really important to us, is taking those UK shows to a global audience. So that absolutely is not something we're about to pull out of. We're very invested in that.
But do you recognise the fact that, you know, Netflix, they're not going to cut deals anymore. They're going to take all the IP. They don't need to have a PSB partner, indeed partners like you, in the middle. There's no need for that anymore. They can put everything out there without, as it were, being hidebound.
But it depends what the creators want to do and what deal they're looking for. You know, you know, they want to often share. We have no problem attracting talent. That's because a lot of creators want to share in the success of their programming. Whereas if they're taking worldwide rights from a Netflix or an Amazon, they can't then share in sort of international revenues. Whereas we're always, because we're not the whole world, we're a bit of it. So there's always the option there to share in success when it comes. And I think lots of people want to do that and still want to do that. I think there's probably less co-proing with Netflix, and you know, it'd be great to do more. We have done some with Amazon, which has been Britannia and Tin Star, some have been fantastic. But no, I would agree that looks like it's dwindling. There are less places to go for it. But the main thing when you're originating these shows, and especially when they're at that scale, is to be willing to put your money where your mouth is and say, okay, if I want to make this show, if with Sky Vision, for example, for our model, we'll fund it all if we have to.
But is that all going to change when you're either under Comcast or Disney? Which would be your preference?
Has something happened? Have I missed something? I'll go to my phone. I think we'll know a lot more in about a week. So.
Oh.
Just on to Zai's point as well, it's interesting, lots of people, I love it when I go to events like this and people come up and say, you know, you have this one deal, all rights everywhere, that's it. And I go, God, if only you'd come in and actually speak to us. And, you know, even I walked in on day one in Amazon and I joke about this, I didn't even have a desk. I mean, it really is incredibly entrepreneurial, and the joy of that, and I suppose the joy of being slightly younger than some of the guys here in terms of where we are and the maturity of our slate, is that actually we can see what's working and what's not working and do things slightly differently. My background, as lots of you know, is very much in the business of funding shows for indies and helping them get that funding together. So the idea of warehousing rights and sitting on rights and owning these things globally so people can't make money in the future is mad. That will kill our industry. And Good Omens is a fantastic example of that, you know, where that's a global original for Amazon. It then goes out on the BBC, and then worldwide take those rights after we've finished, and they can continue to sell them. So we really do think about things like that, and I think it's, you know, I think it's an evolving way of how we're all having to work in the industry.
But I mean, Tony Hall was talking about, you know, Netflix pockets, and then he was talking about, of course, he was also talking about Amazon's pockets. But you have another Black Mirror moment you don't want to have, I suppose. And what you might have, particularly, let's take something like Bake Off. You know, Channel 4 steals it from the BBC. And what may happen next time round?
It had left the BBC.
What might happen next
Channel
time
4
round
rescued it for the
is
nation.
that Netflix takes it from you guys. I mean, you know, and we all know that they like a good deal, and that whole idea of the loyalty to the BBC that hives some of them off. The others that came to Channel 4, not necessarily building that loyalty, maybe they are. But if Netflix came along with a brilliant deal, why wouldn't they go to Netflix?
Well, let's leave Bake Off out of this discussion for the moment.
No, let's not.
Bake Off's
this is
very
a
happy
really,
at
really live
4,
discussion because it's coming up soon.
Look, there's a genuine issue, I think, around talent, which is that historically, I think when PSBs worked with new talent and invested in them and developed their first projects, those talents tended to, as it were, face those broadcasters for a while, for years often. And we still have lots of, you know, we've got a fantastic Shane Meadows drama coming next year. These are, you know, Paul Abbott's on the air at the moment now, with No Offence, on both Sky and Channel 4. But, you know, you had these years, long-running, sometimes career-running relationships. And that model is being challenged by the fact that the moment someone breaks now, you know, whether it's Michaela Cole or anyone like that, Charlie in End of the Fucking World, there is instantly a massive scrum for their services. And so we as broadcasters have got to work much harder to command some of that loyalty and to really get into quite close creative relationships that people value enough to stay with us.
But the problem is that you can talk to Paul Hollywood and everyone and say, we really value you, we love you, we think you're fantastic. But Netflix brings out the checkbook. I'm not sure how actually you instill that kind of loyalty if in the face of a global giant.
Well, I mean, all I can say is that I have been incredibly heartened in the last 8 months. I came into this feeling a bit glasses half full about the Netflix FANG challenge, particularly for talent. And the conversations I've had over the last 8 or 9 months have been really heartening, I think, because people value real creative input. There was a big thing, you know, a year or so ago when everyone was wandering around saying it's so great working for Netflix because they don't give you any notes. Well, actually, when you talk to most writers, they do value notes, actually. They value really good notes. What they don't want is too many notes, and that's really clear.
They just need pound notes.
They like pound notes, and they like clever, creative notes that help them get better. And the other thing is, you know, they also want to know, I mean, Georgia, earlier you wouldn't say how many people watch an Amazon show, and I understand why, but people quite like knowing how their shows have done, and they certainly like it when they work. So I
mean, these are all, I mean, I understand all that, but the truth of the matter is, as we know, the SVODs never give any information away, commercially sensitive and so forth. But if they find out in other ways how well their shows are doing, and they get the money, and they get creative freedom, maybe you say they like the notes, but they get more creative freedom, why wouldn't they go? The question is, do you think the SVODs have actually upped people's game, Zion?
Absolutely. It's competition. There's always been competition, and that is good for the ecology of what we're doing. I can't see that would be anything other than that.
So my point is, do we have anything? I mean, because this conference seems to be all about the fear of the SVODs, you know, as if it's some kind of alien challenge, rather than actually we harness it and make it for better television for all. But the worry is, of course, it's about, and you say you share IP, but the others don't. I mean, it's, you know, they don't. Netflix just doesn't share IP, does it?
Well, I don't think that's right. I mean, we have just made End of the Fucking World with Netflix, one of the most successful scripted shows we've had for a while, and we are in the process of producing series 2 of that. That is a shared show. We are co-producers of that show. Now, Netflix may have a strategy in the longer term of doing less stuff like that. Let's see. Right now, there's lots of incredibly fruitful collaboration.
Just to finish that particular recipe, though, are you convinced that Bake Off will still be on Channel 4 in 4 years' time?
I very much hope that Bake Off will be on Channel 4 in 4 years' time. I hope I'll be there to see it.
You're not going to go for it, are you, Georgia?
No. Not for us.
Not for you, not for you. Audience back in, I think we might have to warm the audience up a bit. Any questions from the audience? Let's see. Question down here, question up there, question at the back. 1, 2, 3. Let's take question 1, please.
My name is Claire Enders, and this is a question for Ian Katz. The arrangement you've come to with Netflix, I mean, how do you see the audiences on Channel 4 and the audiences on Netflix? Do you see these as incremental audiences? Or do you see them as kind of some kind of direct competition? No, I mean, I'd really love to see how you see the overall envelope of audiences for that show over a long period of time.
That's a really good question, and it's a question I asked almost the first week I walked into Channel 4. I mean, just to be clear, the arrangement that we've got with them is one where we are exclusive in the UK for a period of whatever it is, 13 months. So it's not like we think we can co-produce and release at the same time in the UK and not have significant overlap. What exactly the overlap of our audience is with Netflix, I don't know the answer. I've seen numbers that range, you know, anywhere around 15% to 30%, depending on the age groups you look at. I suspect well, I know that the younger you go, the more significant that overlap is. And I think increasingly, the way I try and think is, you know, people are going to watch Netflix probably at some stage in their day or their week, and how do we live with that, and how do we make television around that rather than trying to displace that?
Claire, back on that, or are you happy with that answer?
I really wanted to know whether the audience is incremental after that 13 months. I mean, I presume it is, and also, you know, whether the overall reach provided to Channel 4 is substantially greater.
Well, let me try and answer that another way. I think we're starting to see shows now where when early series of a multi-series show go onto Channel 4, onto Netflix, sometimes years after they started, we are seeing, I think, clear evidence of new audiences finding them and then very often coming back to Channel 4. So, you know, we've just had the most successful series yet of Friday Night Dinner, the 5th series of Friday Night Dinner on Channel 4. It was brilliant. But did it also have something to do with the fact that series 1 and 2 had recently gone on to Netflix and a new generation of younger viewers may have discovered Friday Night Dinner there? I suspect it probably did. And it seems to me an incredibly healthy thing if we are able to use Netflix as a way of introducing audiences to our stuff.
Yeah, we've got a question here, and then there's a third person with the microphone up the back. Thank you. Take the question here.
Thanks, Chris Curtis from Broadcast. It's a question for Zai and for Ian, particularly relating to the... I'm here, Ian, directly in front of you.
Yeah, look. He's going to halo around his head.
Something like that. You guys have just struck quite an interesting deal. There's been a lot of talk about collaboration between British broadcasters as a way of combating some of the threat of the FANGs. Is the deal that you've done a one-off strategic play, particularly around F1, or will it herald a new period of collaboration between you guys and your British peers?
Zai.
Well, we would hope it would herald a new era of collaboration because I think it's a really innovative, smart deal. People talking about it all the time. We've done one.
Yeah.
You know, we're sharing, not just sharing sports rights, we're sharing dramas. No Offence launched last week. The whole of the series was available if you have Sky to watch, to binge watch it if you choose to. You know, and then Tin Star's going to be going on Channel 4 this autumn. So that's, you know, we've got to see how that works and see if then we want to do more if it works for everybody. But I would hope that if it does, of course, we'd be, you know, looking very positively at it.
Ian.
I agree with everything Zai just said.
He always says that.
No, but I think that to me the interesting thing about it is this would probably have been an inconceivable discussion 2 or 3 years ago, and that's why I think what's happening at the moment is sort of rather...
but that's what I was saying. In a way, the SVODs, everybody's up in their game, changing their models, thinking how they can collaborate to get the most out of a limited pot. There's a question right up at the back, gentleman with the microphone. Say who you are, please.
Nick Toon from Warner Media, again, sorry. There's been quite a lot of negative commentary this morning about the SVODs and the threats and all of the rest of it. At the same time, we know in the industry we've got huge problems with lack of access and diversity and new talent coming in. And I just wondered if the panel would like to comment on whether or not actually the massive increase in investment in competition in the UK is in fact a massive opportunity for us to widen the talent pool and give new people and new voices chances to participate.
Georgia.
I would absolutely hope so. Again, I think we've got the luck that we are slightly newer to the market. So, you know, we see what's happened before, and things like diversity and inclusivity is very much ingrained in what we're doing starting out. So I think it's, you know, it's not like we're having to do a pivot. That's very much in the culture of what we're doing. But I would hope that competition with us coming into the market, talking to those new talents, would encourage the PSBs to do the same.
Zai.
Absolutely. Well, it makes us, and the sort of the way we approach it at Sky is that you're looking for new and interesting voices all the time, and then also new and interesting companies to work with. You know, lots of our most successful recent dramas have come from film companies making their first drama. Right. We wouldn't have been looking there, you know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and we are now, and it's been far more rewarding.
And that'll be the same whether it's Comcast or Disney.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yes. Question here.
Hello, Rupert Derbyshire, Deloitte. It's a very positive conversation, but if you take the crystal ball out, where's this going to go over the next 3 to 5 years? Will we see ever more flowers of collaboration blooming, or will they run out of steam?
Yeah, is it going to be the big Americans and what was the analogy? Small ships and big armadas. What's it going to be? I mean, Zai.
I wouldn't possibly attempt to guess 5 years. It's just too complicated to look into that. We look at everything in a sort of very, you've got to be fast moving, you've got to be adroit. So when we're doing commercial deals, we have, you know, there's not a one size fits all strategy. We are looking at a myriad of different ways of doing co-productions, fully funding things, every possible way of doing it. And it's about being fleet enough of foot to find things that work for us at Sky, for customers. That's the main important thing with our original shows that they love. And if you can do that, then you keep building and building and building on those deals and the ways that you do things.
Ian.
I was just thinking, after having predicted every single political event in the last 5 years wrongly, I'd learned to make no predictions, so won't make it. The only thing I feel completely sure about is that we'll be sitting here in 3 years' time having a debate like this about how we deal with the SVOD threat, and that actually probably old-fashioned linear television will be surprisingly healthy and stable compared to some of the apocalyptic predictions that have been
But
made.
I was going to say one thing that is not stable at the moment, Georgia, is the co-pro world, because that's changing all the time. How will that work out? I mean, you've been talking about new co-pro deals and so forth, but the danger is, of course, that the big SVODs just are not going to bother doing co-pros anymore.
Like I said, I can't comment for 5 years in the future, but right now we're heavily investing in them. We've got over 10 right now on our slate that we're working with these guys and BBC, ITV, and it's very important for us to continue that and keep taking those shows to our US customers.
Roy Price, just putting out there, indicated that the future was wholly owned content, that it wasn't going to be this particular model. He was wrong then.
I'm not sure we should have listened to what Roy Price commented in that, I think, that's old time. We have a new regime now. Jen Solke is heading up Amazon, and she is wonderful. She's a program maker at heart. So I think there's a very different approach
well,
to what we're doing.
not on ownership, but what I want to look at is how will content change in the future? Do you think that they're going to go for, more long-form serials, short forms? Is that going to change?
Yes, I think it will. And I think there are a few things we can see quite clearly. I think, we've talked a bit already about how we are going to move into some short form content when we make our move to a new national headquarters. We'll have a unit doing it. I am incredibly admiring of what BBC Three does, where I think it's able to use short form as a sort of bridge for talent into linear, so they're able to take lots more relatively low cost bets on talent, which is good news because more people get a crack, and out of that you get a new generation of talent. So I think there's bound to be more of that. And I think generally, look, we're having to ride two horses, all of us now. We're having to commission linear television with an eye to driving digital growth. And that means looking at the types of programs that prosper on digital, the genres that prosper on digital. We had a significant little milestone a month or so ago. We had the first Channel 4 program where a majority of 16 to 34s watched it on VOD rather than on air. It was Sacha Baron Cohen's Who is America? And I thought that was I didn't feel threatened by that at all. I thought that's fantastic. We've just got to be really clear about the types of content that we commission that work on linear, but also really drive our digital growth.
Do you think the same, that there's going to be a change in the style of content that we watch, never mind the way we watch it, the idea of doing huge? What was it this morning, $1 billion for premium script from Katz? There's going to be different models.
There are definitely more interesting things to do in mid-form and short form. But Netflix has supposedly revolutionised everything. They make hour-long dramas and half-hour comedies. So it's not that different. There are things of certain lengths and ways because they work. However, absolutely in tandem with that, I'm really interested in mid-form and short form, probably for different reasons and different genres. In some reasons, it's about talent progression, and others like drama. I'm really interested in high-quality, shorter-form drama, and what can that do, especially when I look across the digital estate. We've got Sky and Sky Mobile.
So it's fair to say that whether it's Comcast or Disney, and I know you can't possibly say, that you'll be looking for more high-quality, short-form drama. That is something you're actively looking for.
We've already got some pilots in a commission for this autumn in that world. So yeah, that's short-form and mid-form is something we're definitely looking at. Yeah, but I think we need to always carve out our market space, and that is a higher quality premium product normally.
What about form, the different forms when it comes to Amazon?
Again, I think we have the luxury of we don't have slots that we are so restricted by, so we can be a bit freer. But as I said, we're not inventing the wheel. Some of these forms work because they work very well. So we have got coming up Homecoming, which is our big Julia Roberts drama, which is actually a half hour, which is going to be interesting for us, which we're hugely excited by. That's a big thriller. So again, we are experimenting, but certain forms work because they work.
So the next thing I should ask, especially ahead of the next session, is what about the power of the producers? The producers are the ones with the power just now, as
Creators can go to lots of places, and the reason the shows that are successful for us and that have really worked are ones we are there at the inception of, we are haranguing those people to work with us and saying, what do you want to do, what do you want to write? So Save Me came from Anne, our head of drama, had a good relationship with Lenny James, and phoning him and asking what does he want to write. It's Patrick Mulray's, we commissioned it without Benedict, and it took 2 years to get Benedict. It's about being there at the inception of ideas, and that's how we then that's our difference in the marketplace.
Ian, any fear of the producer?
Well, no. It's undoubtedly true that the producer's hand has been strengthened in this ecosystem, and I think that's got to be a good thing. Channel 4 was established partly to to create a vibrant UK independent TV sector. And so the stronger that is, the more diverse it is, the better.
Would you change terms of trade?
In terms of trade, work really well. I mean, over time, they need to be updated, but they work really well for all of us, I think.
On the producer front, power of the producer, ever stronger?
Ever stronger. And I think, working for a global company, what I am aware of is when I go to the States and see the different models there, and I think, thank goodness we're in Europe. I think the power of the producer to be able to work where they feel most comfortable is important. And I know we all sit here and talk about, stealing shows. Ultimately, that decision is not ours. The producers will go where they want to be.
A couple of minutes from the audience. Any more questions? I thought I saw a hand up there, but I didn't. No? Favourite SVOD show? Zai?
Ozark, Netflix.
Ian?
Really good.
Last Chance You, Netflix.
Got to say Maisel.
Without an Amazon
it's got to be Maisel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panel very much indeed.